Houston, sitting on Mary Maddox's back porch, which flooded with 22 inches of water when Hurricane Harvey hit nearly 2 months ago, is a Lady of the Evening plant from Puerto Rico that a friend gave her. Ever since Hurricane Maria ravaged the island, she says, she has paused at the blooming plant when she passes it, rubbing a leaf and saying a prayer for those still without water or electricity. Often, the prayer is accompanied by frustration with President Trump, whom she voted for and who visited this neighborhood after Harvey. He really made me mad, said Maddox, 70, who accused Trump of trying to pit those on the mainland against Puerto Ricans, even though they're all Americans. I don't know, said her husband, Fred Maddox, 75. I think he's trying. He continued. It's a problem, but they need to handle it. It shouldn't be up to us, really. I don't think so. They're sitting back, they're taking the money, they're taking a little under the table. He's trying to wake them up. Do your job. Be responsible. The divide in the Maddox household is one playing out across the country, as those who voted for the president debate how much support the federal government should give Puerto Rico. 1A. U.S. territory without a voting member of Congress that is not allowed to vote in presidential elections. Some supporters of the president, like Fred Maddox, agree with Trump that Puerto Rico's infrastructure was frail before the storm, that the crisis was worsened by a lack of leadership there, and that the federal government should limit its involvement in the rebuilding effort, which will likely cost billions of dollars. But others, like Mary Maddox, are appalled by how the president talks about Puerto Rico and say the United States has a moral obligation to take care of its citizens. A survey released last week by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that a majority of Americans believe that the federal government has been too slow to respond in Puerto Rico and that the island still isn't getting the help it needs. But the results largely broke along party lines. While nearly 3/4 of Democrats said the federal government isn't doing enough, almost 3/4 of Republicans said it is. It has been 2 months since Hurricane Harvey hit Texas and Gulf Coast states, and more than a month since Hurricane Maria slammed into Puerto Rico. On October 3, 2 weeks after the storm, Trump toured a neighborhood outside San Juan, Puerto Rico, and has repeatedly proclaimed, against much evidence, that his administration had a tremendous response to Maria. He gave his administration a 10 during a White House appearance with Puerto Rico's governor this week. I think we did a fantastic job, and we're being given credit, he said. In fact, conditions remain dire throughout much of the island. Nearly 80% of Puerto Ricans still lack electricity, and 30% do not have access to clean drinking water. Here in the Maddox's neighborhood of Saga Glen, by contrast, life is slowly returning to normal. On September 2, just after the storm, Trump briefly toured Saga Glen, a middle-class enclave on the southern edge of Houston, and announced in a cul-de-sac piled with sheetrock debris and trash bags, "These are people that have done a fantastic job holding it together." There's still a near-constant sound of construction in the heavily Republican neighborhood, which is filled with ranch-style and modest 2-story homes. But there are no longer mountains of debris on the curbs, thanks to the local municipal utility district, which shared the cost of removal with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. There are brand new cars sitting in several driveways, thanks to car insurance companies quickly totaling flooded vehicles and local dealers offering flood deals. Those in the neighborhood without flood insurance were able to apply for and receive assistance from FEMA, including the Maddoxes, who recently had $14,000 in federal money land in their checking account. In the nearly 2 decades that the Maddoxes have lived in their ranch house on SageLink Circle, they had seen no need for flood insurance. And, after recently helping one of their daughters pay legal fees for a divorce, the couple's savings isn't what it once was. I'm very appreciative to FEMA. I really am, said Mary Maddox, who has been married for more than 50 years and raised 5 children. I was just so excited when I saw that they loved us. They don't live deprived. In a recent afternoon on nearby SageLink Court, David Hogg stopped by the driveway of his neighbor Donna Ramirez, showing her the latest handful of screws he had collected from the cul-de-sac. Hogg and his wife, Patsy Hogg, have had flood insurance for decades after watching water come dangerously close to flooding the first floor of their 2-story home soon after they moved to the neighborhood in the late 1970s. They now pay about $450 per year. Ramirez and her husband also said T.